Hi, this is John Barber from IDW Publishing. You are listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
You've just jumped inside the pull bag. Join TFG1 Mike and the rest of the comic reading crew here at the GCRN as they make their great escape into comics. From DC, Marvel, IDW, Boom Studios, Zenoscope, and more, we have everything you want to read right here. Transformers comics? Yeah, we cover that. He-Man? Yeah, sure. DC superheroes like Batman, Batgirl, Nightwing, and Batman Beyond? Yep, we have those too. How about TMNT from IDW and I Hate Fairyland from Image Comics? Yeah, we have all that here. Plus, so much more. It's all inside the pull bag here on the Geekcast Radio Network. So without any further ado, it's time to talk about the comics we are reading right now here inside the pull bag.
Hello and welcome to the Pull Bag. This is episode 358, which is very late, but you guys wouldn't know that. I'm, of course, TFG and Mike. Joining me is Ryan, the UnEvenFlow Merkley. Hello, sir.
358, very late. It all rhymes. Woo!
That's right.
I'm very tired. You literally woke me up just for this, so...
Well, you know... Hey,
didn't say it was bad. I was just saying.
At least I'm not waking you up for, Transformers: A Bold New Era. Anyway, I have not read any of the Bold New Era. I'm not saying anything against it or anything, but I've heard a lot of people complaining about the new Transformers iteration. Okay, so the first little thing I want to do before we get this going here is this cover and this opening cover and things like that, very, very kid friendly, and I need to make sure I'm right. Yes, I am right. Okay, so the main cover here is just Bumblebee in an action pose, except he looks like he's eating something. Like, it looks like he has an entire bowl of cereal in his mouth because his cheeks are all puffed out, and I'm like, what the hell? I didn't notice that before.
Speaking of which, have you seen the movie? Let's get this out of the way first.
Not yet.
So, I will finally sort of mention this then, fine, just because you haven't seen it. I didn't tell you this beforehand, but this does not tie into the film. Just so we're 100% clear here, there is minimal tie-in to this. So, I'm okay with that. In the long history of comic book tie-ins to film, you really only have a couple different types, and it's pretty rare that one actually affects the other. There are some types that are considered quote-unquote canon, that, okay, this actually happened in this universe, but then you watch the movie, and there's no reference to it, and it really didn't matter.
Because
then there's...
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, and then there's option 2, which is it's just a prequel comic or sequel comic or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's still never referenced or anything. It just exists. And
I can understand sequel comics because the movie or whatever
the movie always takes precedence.
Right, exactly. I can understand that. Prequel comics, unless it's going to be tied into the film or unless it's going to the film doesn't have to reference the events in the comic for me, but the comic itself has to lead. The end of the comic has to lead into whatever might happen, or leave it off like, oh, well, this was back, in the '60s with James Bond, and 20 years later, Bumblebee wakes up in the '80s or something. Like, it has to have something at the end that points me to.
It certainly could have happened, and in the film. There are relationships that play off of the events here. It's not a
direct tie.
I'm trying to think of how to say it. Yeah. We don't see, John Cena's character, for example. We don't see... sorry, I mean in the... that could have been a bad joke. Har. Now I realize why you're laughing. Anyway, he is not in... this comic book, for example, and
yes.
Part of that is the era they chose. So this comic takes place in the... How the hell does this take place? There's not an actual year.
It's essentially like, Sean Connery, James Bond. It's over in the UK. I assume it's the 60s.
I want to say 60s, yeah, if I had to choose.
That's what I'm assuming. Again, as always, John Barber on writing. Andrew Griffith. I haven't seen Andrew Griffith art in forever, I don't think. Colors done by Priscilla Tramontano. Letters done by Tom B. Long. Series edits by David Mariette. The only thing I fully enjoyed with this was so there are 4 issues in this, because this was originally single issued. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I have no idea why this was single 4 issues at first and then traded into what this graphic novel is.
Yeah, they should have just sold it as a graphic novel prequel, period. I'm not sure on the split either.
Yeah.
It's reading it in, so I didn't own it. I didn't get it in issue format. I just have the graphic novel,
Same
have
here.
it digitally.
Yeah.
And I couldn't imagine reading it broken down into pieces. It's a very odd choice to have in issues. So
yeah, it very much is.
We've talked about it before, that some writers write for trade, but sometimes the stories are just pretty much meant to be read in trade, and this kind of falls into that.
Absolutely. I only saw it as in trade until I actually went to the page to send it to another co-host of ours, Joe Reed. I only noticed it then that it was done in issues. I don't know why it was done in 4 issues. I understand why it's done in 4 issues in the trade, but why would you have a month of Bumblebee comics come? I don't get it. Honestly, the only things that I absolutely love about this original graphic novel, prequel novel, whatever you want to call it, honestly, are the covers. The story was not my favorite at all.
So the story, just to sum it up quickly then, it's a James Bond story with a living car, essentially. Bumblebee works with an agent who is in a James Bondian 007 style, works for Her Majesty's Secret Service, etc., up against an evil agency, clearly meant to be a play on Spectre, and it's their adventure as they're betrayed from within, seemingly, and we've got the Decepticons who are working for the rival agency, essentially, although they're really working on their own.
Right, yeah. First of all, I love you, John Barber. I do. I love your writing. This is a time where I personally believe that, Hasbro was like, hey, we need a prequel, or we need something to make more money off this movie if it doesn't make $1 billion by itself. I hate all of the I'm an acronym freak.
The acronyms get annoying. All right, I'll agree with you there.
The acronyms in this.
I don't remember them either. That's why I skipped over them when we were doing this. When I was doing the summary just now, because I can't even remember them. They weren't funny enough to stand out for me. At least Spectre and 007. The short forms used in the Bond films are memorable. These are just long for the sake of being long.
Yes.
And as I said, I can't even remember them, which is a bad sign, especially when you consider I reread this, 2 hours ago. That's not good. My memory's not that bad. I'm not quite that old. I'll say this, I would tend to agree with what you said, that this kind of reeks of somebody saying, well, we need a prequel comic, or we need a tie-in comic. But having said that, the thing I like about it is, and I guess it's because I'm a fan of Barber, I like this. I like that he had fun with it. To me, it reeks of a writer who he's wanted to write a spy story, but didn't necessarily get the chance to when he did the Transformers comics that we talk about regularly.
Yeah.
And it feels like this is him getting to play with something he always wanted to try. So I don't have a problem with it from that. trying to think of how to say this nicely. It's not great, and I'm not a huge fan of it, but I'm happy it exists, because I think writers deserve the chance to kind of break out of their mold, and especially Barber, who wrote what, oh god, no, probably 100 and some odd
issues
of Transformers now.
Yeah.
And just didn't get the chance to break out of the mold, the universe that he set up.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy that he gets the chance to bust out of that. But
this to me is similar. Like I said before, I think this is Hasbro saying, "Hey John, wouldn't it be a good yes, I agree. Maybe he absolutely wanted to write a spy story. That's awesome. I just wish he had more." I hope that a lot of this wasn't like his idea of what his spy story should be, because it reeks of nothing but just really bad one-line. Not even the good one-liners. It reeks of the really bad ones, and I really hope it's not because Hasbro said, "Hey John, we need something." I don't know. I don't work for Hasbro. I don't work for IDW. I'm not a fly on the wall in any of that stuff. I can just assume and make an ass out of myself. But, I don't like any of the humans in this. Bumblebee is cool. Bumblebee gets a lot of stuff done. Bumblebee is very interesting here. Considering, again, you're playing with movie Bumblebee, and, we actually get a reason to why he doesn't have the voice box. I've been waiting since 2007 to find that answer out. So that's one thing I will say for John. Thank you for giving me an answer on what happened to Bumblebee's voice box.
Bumblebee comes off as a good character here. I agree. The humans aren't super relatable or enjoyable here. The Decepticons come off pretty poorly, too.
Yeah.
Dead End in particular, which, whether you like any other version of Dead End or not, you're probably not really going to like this one.
You're heading down a dead-end road there, Ryan.
Blitzwing is the only one that comes off with any real sort of character or development to him. And this is despite the fact that most of the book is spent with Diablo, who is a female Decepticon who switched sides, apparently under the orders of Megatron, worked with the Autobots, and then was revealed to be a Decepticon. And yeah, that's about it. We've seen that plot done a few times in Transformer Land.
I'll say this. Diablo is a better pretender than Alice ever was.
Oh. Anyway. Oh. Let's not mention Revenge of the Fallen characters.
But Ryan, that film is 10 years old this year. We gotta work it in somehow.
I hate that movie so much. Oh. It's the only movie. I still remember it well. My girlfriend at the time so badly wanted to leave the theater, and I kept going maybe it'll get better. It did not get better. It just found new lows. And
as soon as John
Turturro.
As soon as John Turturro was under the Devastator balls, I'm like, there's no coming back from this.
What's weird is the movie was so bad even before then, and it just keeps finding new ways. It's it's one of my least favorite films ever, and I would still argue to this day it is a worse movie than Age of Extinction. But that's a tough one. Anyway, back to this, which is way better than either of those. Thanks for cheering me up, though. That's because, man, that reminded me that, you know what? This isn't so bad.
Exactly. I do enjoy...
And no, it's not so bad. It just kind of exists. There's not a... I feel bad. I'm really happy it exists. I'm glad that Barber, I assume anyway, just from reading this, he had a lot of fun writing it. It's just there's not a lot to recommend it. If you're a fan of the movie and you're a huge fan of Bumblebee, then I can understand that. But aside from that, like if you watched the film and you enjoyed Blitzwing, I don't know that I would recommend it. And if you just want more Transformers, I'm going to be blunt. I mean, you're better off with the standard IDW stuff. So,
so not just the old joke of my favorite part was the fact that it ended. Was like, I'm not saying that here, but my favorite, like, Andrew Griffith and Priscilla Tramontano do an amazing job with the colors, with the design, with everything. With the
and you're
art.
right, by the way. The covers are absolutely gorgeous, and the artwork is great. They took the mishmash of the Bumblebee design aesthetic, which is somewhat similar to the Bay movies, but with a little bit of G1 essentially mixed into it, and it should be ridiculously difficult to draw. They make it look easy. They do a fantastic job here. And another thing, humans in Transformers comics, Dreamwave, have not always looked great, Dreamwave. And there have been some issues with expressions, Dreamwave, and emotions in Transformer books that have humans in them, Dreamwave. But no, they do a fantastic job with the human characters as well. You can clearly see the expressions and the emotion on them, be they Transformer or human. And it's really well done. And yeah, that is another reason that if you really like, actually, that's a good point. If you really like the design aesthetic from the Bumblebee movie, then yeah, maybe check this out, at least for the art.
Yeah, my favorite 2 panels of the art. All the art is amazing. The story it's good, but it's not my favorite. As you've already said, it kind of is there. It exists.
It's a prequel comic. I can think of few movie prequel comics I would say are very good.
Very true.
Anyway.
My favorite 2 panels are the end 2 panels where Bumblebee says, turns out Diablo was right. I owe you, Blitzwing. And then the mask comes down, and I'm here to pay my debt. I love those 2 panels of the up close of his face. That is amazing stuff right there. Absolutely love that. But yeah, folks, Transformers Bumblebee kind of finishes off June here inside the pull bag. What would you rate it 0 to 5?
2.5.
I'm going to give it a 3. Going back and rereading it, the story is hokey as hell, but I understand it's supposed. That's the point. That's the joke, especially with the acronyms and everything else. I wish it kind of did a better job with the Bumblebee characters, like Blitzwing and things like that. Like I said earlier, to lead into what this is supposed to be a prequel of. So, I'm right in the middle on there.
It's tough for me too because I'm just not sure exactly who it's for. So, you just read this. Does it make you want to see the movie more now?
I had already wanted to see the movie.
Yeah, this is tough too because we're both Transformers fans. I already wanted to see it, as well.
I wanted to see the movie as soon as I saw the images on TFW 2005 about how Soundwave and Optimus and actual G1 Transformers are in the film.
I wanted to see the movie as soon as I discovered there was somebody new doing a live action Transformers movie who didn't share a name with one of those people that did all the other ones.
Exactly. So, yeah.
I was excited at that point. That's when they had me. So I guess, this isn't... That's the other thing, too, I'll preface all of this with. I'm not 100% sure we're the audience this is for.
Right.
We already know these characters. We already know our Transformers and love them for the most part. Depending,
Yeah, absolutely.
we brought up a movie neither of us love, but anyway.
And honestly, though, I still love all the Bumblebee moments in this. Bumblebee is obviously the starring character here. I think the other one we did, the other Bumblebee original graphic novel that we did in episode 349, Win If You Dare. Oh no, that was me and JT that did that. That wasn't you.
I've read it.
Okay, well, point is, these two original graphic novels, I think, is Hasbro and IDW trying to reach out to general fans. Is trying to get them into the Bumblebee character. I do wish this story here in the movie prequel was tied in a little bit, like a lead up to, like an after credits scene at the end of the cover gallery in the trade or something. But yeah,
I'll say it before too. It's going to be tough because Bumblebee has, for better or for worse, he has become the Transformer. As in, he's probably the most overexposed Transformer. Again, aside from Prime and Megs, but it's got to be tough coming up with new stories and new things for him to do when he's a character that's been focused on really heavily as far back as 1984, when he was one of the first Autobots. He's one of the first Transformers we were ever introduced to.
He was
in that opening,
like, him and Wheeljack.
In that opening scene with Ian Wheeljack.
Be days like this, and you didn't believe him. I do now.
Yep.
And ever since then, we've seen Bumblebee in different incarnations over and over again, and he's kind of been he's one of those characters that's supposed to get us into watching or reading whatever it is Transformers related. Yeah. So it's going to be tough coming up with new stories, that kind of thing for him.
Absolutely.
And trying to kind of nail down the character without just rehashing the same character. So,
right. I don't know if it was a new clip or an old clip. I assume it was a new one. I recently watched one of the TFCon videos with Dan Gilvezan and Alan Oppenheimer, where they're, somebody's asking them a question, things like that. And I've always known this because I interviewed Dan. Michael Wilson and I did a number of years ago. I think it was right before his book came out. I know Dan hates the fact that they turned him into Goldbug. Part of me as a child and even as an adult, the reason why I absolutely love, hey, look at me, I'm just not plain old Bumblebee anymore, I'm a Goldbug. Part of me, the reason why I love that is because Bumblebee didn't die. He's still alive. Yes, he's got a new body. Yes, he's got a new name, but it was still Dan Gilvezan as the voice. As much as Dan hates them changing the name and changing the body and doing all of that, I understand, and I do kind of agree with Dan on it, but as a fan of it, Bumblebee's not dead. Bumblebee is going to continue to live on, even though he's named differently and he's a different different body type kind of thing. And this, to me, this movie prequel, and from what I've seen of the Bumblebee movie, hey, this is an early day thing of Bumblebee's adventures. Again, like I said, this is like before he lost his voice. He has his voice in the movie, doesn't he? Or he has a voice it's not Radio B, is it?
Gee, I guess you'll just have to watch it.
Tell me already, because I need to end this podcast.
It's a combination.
Okay, so we possibly get how he lost his voice or something like that, or whatever. Anyway, like we said, this is for general audience fans, I think. This is for, like, hey, you like that movie that you just saw? Go read this, because this kind of, sort of, but not really happens before it. Kind of a thing. Alright, folks. Coming up in July, scroll there, we have in episode 359, Superman Year 1, Number 1 with myself and Joe Reed. And then I just edited this. I just put it together. It's just under 2 hours. Steve, myself, Lady Wreck, Nicole, Beatles Diva, Hailstorm, Joe Reed, and JT from Saskatoon tackle the IDW 2020 books. These are 5 supposed one-shot stories, but some of them do tie into other events kind of thing. This is IDW celebrating their 20th anniversary this year. And then after that, we've got Batman TMNT 2 with Joe and myself for July, and then TMNT 81 to 84 of the main ongoing, which is the Kingdom of Rats storyline, will close out July. And then Autobotley August kicks off with Ryan and I continuing on with the Transformers Spotlights. In Part 3, we've got Blaster, RC, Mirage, Grimlock, and Spader's favorite, Wheelie.
Harsh.
It's true.
Where can the people find me?
I don't know. Where can the people find you online?
Jeez, I always give the same answer. I thought you were going to reply. I'm at Nightbeat on Twitter.
I'm at TFG1Mike on Twitter. You can also follow at The Pullbag and at Geekcast Radio as well. Also check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/Geekcast Radio Network and facebook.com/The Pullbag. I don't know. Steve will have all that stuff in the outro. Make your great escape into comics, and we'll catch you next time here inside The Pullbag, where we, for the first time in 6 years, in the entire history of the show, we've never reviewed any Superman stuff. So Superman Year 1, Number 1 by Frank Miller and John Romita Jr. is the very first Superman thing we ever review on this podcast.
You've just heard the latest episode of The Pullbag, the GCRN's first comic review and discussion podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate and leave a review for the show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Become a fan of us on Facebook, facebook.com/thepullbag. Send us an email, feedback at geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at thepullbag and at geekcastradio. So until next time, make your great escape into comics and unleash the geek in you.